who is joining us live via Zoom. Dr. Chabot, thank you for joining us as always.
Aaron, look, my pleasure. Great to be with you today. As you had mentioned, look, the war is back on. The ceasefire and MOU really are no longer in play. The United States is really posturing much more different now than we were a week or 2 weeks ago. This is no longer trying to contain Iran. We're really looking at degrading their military capability. And it is beyond just the coastal regions where they have launched a lot of their attacks onto ships in the Strait of Hormuz, in more now inland into the areas of Iran as well. As you mentioned, yes, the U.S. blockade is back in place. That started yesterday. And Iran is responding with ballistic missile attacks. They've aimed for our bases in Bahrain, Kuwait, as well as Jordan. And that's the latest state of play with some other pretty significant developments.
Yeah, and you look at the and you look at where we were just a couple of weeks ago, where it seemed like there might be hope as far as those talks go.
Yeah.
Now that's kind of been dashed at this point, and it goes back to what you and I have talked about. I don't know how many times, Dr. Chabot, is just the fact that
Yeah.
you can't really predict where this is going to go on a day-to-day basis.
You really can't. And I know Trump again said today and again yesterday that he's open for discussions, open to make a deal. But I think, after 27 different iterations of this, Iran's not looking for a deal. They're looking for a different type of a win. Now, Iran knows they cannot beat the United States militarily. They just can't. So what they're doing is they're looking at more economic disruption, shipping, oil, insurance rates for ships that have to go through these straits. And I think a huge red flag and concern going forward is that Iran has basically said that they are now going to look at the Red Sea. The Red Sea has another strait in there, the Bab el Mandeb Strait. Now, you can look at Saudi Arabia on a map. You basically have the Strait of Hormuz up here, and then down south, you've got this other strait, which we've not talked a lot about. If Iran follows through on that threat and activates one of their four proxies in the region, which are the Houthis, they can absolutely cause almost identical disruption in that strait as what we're seeing in the Strait of Hormuz. And what that means is more economic pain going forward, not just for the U.S., but for the entire world.
Yeah, and that's and you look at what we've been going through involving the oil prices, Dr. Chabot. I mean, that's been really one of the biggest economic disruptions that we've seen because we see how much oil prices, gas prices really impact so
Yeah.
much of our economy. It's not just what we're paying at the pump at that point, and it really seems like that has been Iran's strategy throughout this whole thing.
It is. And I often say, look, Iran reads the same newspapers that we do. They collect intelligence on us. They are aligned with China and Russia that shares intelligence with them. Today, China, Russia, North Korea are all watching, what's happening. Also important is to think about our munitions. We watch these missiles on TV hitting targets in Iran, the coast, etc. Well, many of those are our Tomahawks. And then, of course, we have our defenses, which are the Patriot system. I think a concern in the military community is that we are potentially running low on those stockpiles because we have to not only think about protecting our troops in that area and our allies, but we have to be ready to defend ourselves at a moment's notice anywhere in the globe. So if you think about it this way, in Iran, we've launched about 1,000 Tomahawks already within the last 4 or 5 months. The United States, on average, we make about 200 a year. Now we can kick that production up, but what that shows is that we are going through a lot of our stockpile. I know today President Trump mentioned he's going to have a discussion more about capacity building. The companies like Raytheon that manufacture has said they can make up to 1,000 a year. But these are things that we have to look at, certainly energy prices, but also our ability to sustain and have a strong military, not just for the Middle East, but for the entire world, for any other conflict that could arise.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's no way to predict what's going to happen, as we've discussed. But as you're watching this, what are the big things you're watching for? Should we expect troops on the ground at this point, or do you think the airstrike campaign is really what we should expect more of?
We will continue. So even though during the ceasefire there was not a huge exchange, remember, our intelligence apparatuses are always collecting intel. And so they're building information that then targeteers or target packages are put together. So we probably have an infinite number of targets to hit. I definitely see the air campaign continuing. There has been some discussion about maybe taking over Karg Island, which is 90% of Iran's oil. That would require our boots on the ground, but maybe not a sustaining force. Just clear it out, then back off and make sure that it remains empty. But also today in Congress, concerning, if you will, from a military perspective, is that the National Defense Authorization Act, every single year, this year, it did not get through the Senate. And so you're going to see political strife here at home addressing the Iran war as well. So you've got these multiple facets impacting us, because if that doesn't go through, then our our troops, our pay raises, those things are going to become political hot potatoes as we enter into the election season in a few short months.
Right, and we've seen how that's gone with other agencies as far as the prolonged government shutdowns go, Dr. Chabot, and really perhaps maybe the biggest sign of congressional strife involving this war that we've seen, because those war powers resolutions weren't going to go anywhere. They were a sign, but not passing the defense authorization. That's a whole different story.
It is, and this year it's about I think $1 trillion package. They're asking for about 900 billion more than previous years, and how it's written up is to modernize our military forces going through such a huge chunk of money. What we're seeing is that the opposition in Congress is not necessarily having an issue with the dollar amount. They are simply saying that they want to see a plan out of this White House about how to end this war and what this war will lead to. So there is some political posturing. Our troops raises are going to be a political hot potato issue. Nobody in either party wants to hold up those issues, but going forward, we can see politically the conversation and debates that we're going to have.
And we are going to be paying attention to that along with you, Dr. Paul Chabot. We really appreciate you joining us and taking the time today. Certainly a complicated issue, but one that's really important to break down.
My pleasure. Thanks, Aaron.
Stay with